Welcome to another episode of How I Discovered My Gift with yours truly, David D. Simons. I'm honored and delighted, and my excited is excited to have today's guest on. So we have Ken Brown, inspirational speaker, business coach, author, and entrepreneur on the show today. And let me tell you a little about Ken, because everybody has a story to tell, right? However, few people have been profound enough to go through the story that Mr. Ken Brown has. He's had every excuse to choose a life of failure. At the age of 13 and 14, Ken's parents brought their first child into the world. By 17 and 18, they were mother and father to 5 children. In spite of poverty and a trail of 10 evictions, Ken's parents still emphasized the importance of education and strong work ethic. After starting his journey in less than ideal circumstances, this Chicago native worked his way through Southern Illinois University as a busboy and waiter. Once he graduated, he maintained his focus as well as his hunger for excellence, which has paid off in monumental personal and professional opportunities. As one of the youngest African-American owners and operators of a McDonald's franchise, Ken's light has shone brightly in the arena of entrepreneurial accomplishment. Ken's favorite mantra is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. It epitomizes his modern day rags to riches story, which has inspired and motivated others to live out their dreams. I want to just say to y'all, from a personal bio from me to Ken, he's a tremendous brother. Like, sometimes you meet people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and they could be different characters. He's the same character, same person, the genuine heart. He has a servant's heart. He has a servant's mind. He's always there to serve people, and I think that's what's made him successful. He's always just genuine and kind and true. He's also hilarious, as you'll learn today. But it's truly an honor to have Ken on the show, someone I admire, respect highly, greatly, and he's doing it in many ways, as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, as a man of God in every area. So, Ken, welcome to the show, my brother. Thank you so much for being on.
Wow, Dave, that's powerful, man. That is so rich, man. I'm gonna write that down. I love that. You said I got you excited. That is profound, man. Profound. Yeah, I'm delighted and honored, man. Kingdom social media, man. I love it, bro. Anything kingdom, brother. Anything kingdom.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Ken, I know I took the listeners a little bit into your story, but can you walk us through? I know it's been a journey, but walk us through for people that don't know the story as much. If you could.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, man. My goal, man, my hopes is that people will be empowered and inspired. That's my, I don't know of you, Dave, but I think everyone who's in the realm of my sphere of my listening and hearing and seeing, Nietzsche once said, when you know the why, you can endure anyhow. Woo, come on, somebody. I can't pick this up, David. Nietzsche said that, not Ken Brown. Nietzsche said, when you know the why, you can do it anyhow. And that's kind of where my story starts, the why. You said it so eloquently in the bio, man. Born into poverty, Chicago, Illinois. My mother and father were 13 and 14 when they first started having babies. Now, I got to stop there because that's very important. I'm not saying that to get sympathy. Don't feel sorry for me. No, absolutely, unequivocally not. That is there for us by design as motivation for anyone who's listening and hearing this. If you want to own your business, if you want to get married, if you want to become a millionaire, I'm loving it. So that's powerful. Think about it though. So that's the motivation. See, poverty and adversity, it didn't get me disappointed. It didn't get me scared. It motivated me. See, motivation means reason to move. So, and so that motivated me. And so, it was so interesting how growing up 13 and 14, now to be totally transparent with you, the world, the odds, teachers, family, and some friends had told us that we would not amount to anything because of our environment. And it's so interesting. My parents had 13 to 14. They were only 13 to 14. They didn't have a lot of experience, brother, but they had tons of wisdom. Woo, come on, somebody. And you know what? It came from? Wisdom come from above. They didn't they didn't have education. They had wisdom because they always taught us that my father was so powerful brother. He said, Ken, you will not be a victim of your circumstances, of your environment. He
Mm.
said, but, ooh, I love some but. See, but me ain't over, David. He said, but you will. He was very intentional. My father taught me, my mother taught me faith. My father taught me how to be intentional. He said, you will make sure that your environment becomes a product of you. I got to say it again for you. He said, you will not become a product of your environment, but your product will become a product of your environment will become a product of you. With that and that right there, see, most things are not taught, they're caught. That right there taught me that it was my responsibility to really to know the whole moniker, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you choose to respond to it. That's my story. David, life had dealt me a hand. Born to teenage parents, on our journey, we were evicted 10 times. 10 times. When I was in high school, we were evicted every year. We were evicted, sometimes twice in the year. But we kept focused. We kept the faith and we kept hope. And we were able to overcome those circumstances. And so we grew up, and my father had to get a job. So my father got into the restaurant business. He was a chef by trade. And so I got into the business by accident because of that. Because, I going to see my father, going to work with my father, going into the kitchen, feeling that energy. And then it's interesting because I wanted to really recession-proof my life, David. I wanted to do something that I can go anywhere on the globe and I can do. And so because my father was in the food service industry, and then my grandmother was too, his mother got him a job at the Hyatt Corporation. And she sat me down one day and told me, she said, grandson, her knees were very bad because I don't know if you know, but no, the restaurant business is very labor intensive.
Right.
You got to have a sense of urgency. You got to be, you stay on your feet for 10, 12 hours a day. And my grandmother had did that for years and years and years. And when she found out that I wanted to get into the business, she gave me some advice. She said, baby, as she sat there rubbing her knee, said, baby, I know that you really want to go into this industry. She said, but I want you to do something for Granny. So don't use your body. I want you to use your mind. That was powerful, baby. Wow. And so that's where the journey began for me, is that my mother and father also told me something growing up. They said that it was so interesting. I can remember like it was yesterday. Now they 13 and 14 having babies, and they had the audacity. Woo! Come on, somebody love audacity. Remember Obama had that book called The Audacity of Hope? We had that. My mother and father taught us, they said, when you become 16 years old, follow me, or 17 years old, they said, either you going to college or you getting out of our house. That's profound. You see, some people with limited thinking would say that was child abuse. No. Boy, they set us on fire. And what they did was, in all transparency, they set a bar on our life.
Wow.
It set a bar. Now, right? You agree? It set a bar. Yeah. And all five, now listen, mother, father, 13 to 14, no education. All five of us went to college. 3 out of 5 got master degrees, and I got a PhD. Woo! Come on, somebody, what you doing? You got a PhD, what your PhD doing? I got a PhD in business from McDonald's, and so that's a powerful, powerful story. So I wanted to start there because I don't even feel, wow, rags to riches. No, I would not change anything because I believe this, David, that your life is a garden and you're the gardener. I'm gonna say that again for you. Your life is the garden and you're the gardener. And it comes to parent and environment. My parents were very, very intentional about making sure that they could not give us a lot of substance, even though my mother struggled, but she always gave us stuff that we probably shouldn't have had because she probably felt guilty. You agree? You know what I'm talking, right?
Yeah.
But it was so powerful because what that taught, that taught us hard work, dedication, commitment, sacrifice. So that environment was so rich that they didn't give us a lot, but they put a lot of stuff into us. Does that make sense? And so we were able to overcome those obstacles, man. And we all went to college. I never forget, I wanted to major in hotel restaurant management, and I wound up finding about Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, which was far enough. It was 500 miles away from Chicago, and it was in a tri-state area. So it bordered Illinois, Tennessee, and Missouri. So I was able to get far away from my hometown so I could get financing. Come on, somebody, in state. So I was in state. out at the tip. And so I needed to get away because at the time when I matriculated to go to college, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment. My mother and father had wound up getting a divorce, wound up living in a one-bedroom apartment with my grandmother, my mother, and all five of us. And it's so powerful because, and then I got to say this, we went to a private school.
Wow.
And nobody in our private school knew that for a year, we didn't have lights, we didn't have gas, we didn't have a phone, but we had hope. Woo! Come on, somebody. See, hope is important, man. Hope is being able to see past today. And so my parents did a wonderful job, man. We lived in poverty, but they never allowed poverty to live in us. Man, you got to write that down, somebody. That's gangster, isn't it?
That is.
That's how I can't make this up, David. So we lived in poverty, our environment, right? Because your where you live is predicated upon your income and your resources. But life is an inside job. See,
that's right.
They gave us a wealthy mindset. They gave us a vision. They gave us purpose. Because they were passionate, we inherited passion. And the greatest gift they gave us, David, was the gift of faith. Woo, I'm a man of faith, man. I believe that all things are possible through Christ. Oh, come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. So I can go on, but that's my story, man. Born in humble beginnings, from Chicago, and wound up going to college to major in hotel restaurant management. And just an amazing, amazing journey that I wouldn't change.
Wow. I love that, Ken. And you wow, it's just the lessons your parents instilled into you. Obviously it lives in you and strong, and it's like a guiding force. It sounds like it's been for you. And could you talk to us about, like, now you're in college, right? You get to college and you're away from home, and now you got to kind of make a name for yourself. I know you've always had the dream of, building the hot dog stand and all of that. So take us through college all the way into the business realm.
That's powerful. Great question. So let me digress. So in Chicago, being from Chicago, I was exposed. Exposure is powerful. Exposure. Told you, environment and exposure. Environment first, then exposure. So my parents did a really good job of exposing us to different things, classical music, different cultures. My father traveled, so we traveled. And so, but food service, when it comes to my vocation, and I love vocation. See, vocation is not a job. Vocation is a calling. If you say the word vocation means calling. Woo, come on, somebody, call back out. So my vocation I chose was food service, but I was very intentional and particular. I didn't just want to major in food service. I wanted to own my own business, and it was called Ken's Hot Dog Stands. Why? Because in Chicago, hot dogs were very, very big. It was these place down near downtown, and sometime on the south side called Maxwell Street, and they had these all shops and markets, like not flea market, but actually storefronts. And on the opposite side of it, it had these huge. They weren't food trucks. They weren't mobile, but they were actual physical plants. But they were small footprint. And I'm back then. I don't know where I get it from. I have this business mindset. I'm looking at their overhead, the small footprint. It had grills and hoods and fryers, but it was just enough space to operate. And I see these lines of people waiting for these hot dogs. So I said, I'm going to open up Ken's Hot Dog Stands. And that's powerful because most people have a dream and a vision, but they never give it a name.
That's right.
See, a vision is powerful, dream is powerful, but the power like that comes at a time. When you call it, and I called it Ken's Hot Dog Stand. So everybody who came into my sphere of influence, I told them, I'm going to open Ken's Hot Dog Stands. I'm going to open Ken's Hot Dog Stands. And so I went to college intentionally. I went to college not to get a degree. I went to college to learn how I can get the time, tools, and training to open Ken's Hot Dog Stands. Come on, somebody.
There we go.
When I went there, and I went to college, and I wasn't a good student at all. I ain't gonna lie. I was probably a C student at best. But I've always been focused, Dave. So I wasn't really a good student. So I never forget. To be honest, since you asked me the question, to be totally transparent, and I don't share this a lot, but I'll be honest with you. Okay. When I got accepted into SIU Carbondale, I got accepted under special admissions. Because my grades wasn't that good, but I had a desire. Woo! Come on, somebody. I believe this. Your desire has to outweigh your will. That makes sense? Your desire has to. And so, yeah. And so I really decided to, okay. So I never forget, I wrote a handwritten letter to SIU Carbondale. I said, my name is Kenneth Brown. This is not a true indication of the potential. True story. I said, here's my grades, here's my transcripts. And I sent it in. And they sent me a letter back and said that I was accepted into SIU Carbondale under special admissions. It was 25,000 students in that college, but nobody knew I was under special admissions but me. I just wanted to be in that environment. And so I had a buddy of mine who went to high school with me. He was very, very he didn't have to study. He was very cerebral. Named Mark Burrell, my best friend, right about my book. And so we created a pact and a covenant, like David and Jonathan.
Yeah.
So I said, Mark, you are very proficient in this thing called education, because Mark he can go party, he can go to a keg party, he can drink, and he have a final the next day. He didn't have to study, and he would crush it, Dave.
What?
Yes, he would write a paper. He knew rhythm. Oh man, he was a very cerebral guy. I wasn't. I had a little swag. I was sociable. So we made a covenant. We did, Dave. We made a covenant. I said, you help me get through school and I'll help you garner some swag. Just roll with me.
There we go.
That was my first strategic partnership. Woo! Come on, somebody.
I love it.
It was. I can't make this up, Dave. And so I let him roll with me. When he rolled with me, he got influence and got swag, right? Because the law of association says you become the top 5 people you surround yourself with. Ooh,
that's right.
Come on, somebody.
That's right.
So by me hanging out with Mark, I got a little more proficient in studying that habits. Hanging out with me, he got a little more swaggerlicious. So it was a win-win proposition. And so went through and got off academic probation quickly, first semester. Then I got so focused that kind of ignited something in me. I said, "Damn, I can't do this if I focus." So I wound up. Fast forward, I joined the fraternity, and then my fraternity brothers had on-campus interviews. Now I'm first generation, so my parents couldn't coach me, so I had to go find coaches. You feeling me? Right. That's very important. See, people complain, well, I don't have a father, I don't have a mother, but I remember this song growing up, on Sesame Street. Who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet walking down. That was so profound, brother. So what that taught me is it don't matter what happened in your household. That's important. But if you don't have your household, you got to go outside and get it. So I did that. And I surround myself with people who were smarter than me, who knew more than your fraternity brothers. And they told me, Ken, you're serious about this food service thing. And so they said, you go do an on-campus interview. So I did an on-campus interview, and they kind of coached me, told me to put on a dark suit, white shirt, a power tie, which is a red tie, make sure my shoes were buffed. I didn't understand why, but I did it. David, I had an on-campus interview with Aramark. Now, Aramark is actually a leader in our industry, in the food service industry. And so I had a first interview, really, of a big interview, and I crushed it. The guy named Rick Webb, I never forget. I was there before he got there. It was raining that day. He was a little bit late. So then I got to command the interview. And when he got done with me, just telling my story, just telling my passion. And he shook my hand when he got done and said, I hope that the rest of my day goes as well as this one. And I walked out of there with a bit of confidence that I knew that I got the job. So I wound up getting the offer for $18,500. Man, I thought I was rich. I called my mother and said, "Yeah, I'm coming home. We rich. I'm about your house." Dave, you laugh, man, but I did that for real. $18,500 in 1988. I thought I was
that actually is a lot of money, though. And if you look at the inflation and all that, right? I mean, especially after college.
Come out of college. Yeah. I was one of the few people, not bragging, but I was one of the few people who I've actually matriculated in the discipline in which I chose. I got a job in it. So I went to school for hotel restaurant management and got a job in that industry. And it's interesting. Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you choose to respond to it. So after that high, I get the job. And I never forget, my first assignment was National Louis University, which it was a college, and it was a college that was right down the street from Northwestern University in Evanston. Beautiful campus. and I was the assistant food service director. I had my own desk, had my
Hey.
name on it. Oh my goodness, man, it was powerful. And I said,
Yeah.
I thought I had made it. And after 6 months, I never forget going to work one day and Mary, I was the assistant director and Mary was my director. And Mary called me into my office. She came in my office and sat down and said, Ken, we got to let you go. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting promoted. Where am I going? I'm doing it, never get written up, no competition. So she said, we got to let you go. I'm like, where am I going? She said, you're fired. What? I was devastated, David.
Oh
I
man.
cried like a
Goodness.
baby. I locked myself in my apartment for
Mm.
about 3 weeks, man. And I just was devastated because as a young African American young man, first generation, I felt like I was a failure. Believe it or not, I really did. And so I locked myself in there, man. And so after going, and you know what? Then I got kind of mad because I said, my parents lied to me. They told me, and the world lied to me. They told me, go to college, pick a discipline, do the right thing, go to school, get an education, get a job, and you made it. I checked every box off. Then I get there after 6 months, she fired me. And let me say this to you. I'm looking for Mary. So, see, don't be conformed by the patterns of this world. Dave, I'm telling you, look, don't be conformed by the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. I had to change my mindset. That's why I'm looking for Mary, because I got something for her. Yep, because Mary really helped propel me into my purpose.
Wow.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
Because like everybody else, I was going for the 40-40 plan. 40 hours, 40 years for a 401k. Woo, come on, somebody.
Yeah.
But God. See, the Bible says many other plans are the man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose will prevail. I had a purpose. But God's purpose trumped my purpose. And Mary had to do what she did because knowing my DNA, knowing my mindset, knowing my personality, I wanted to go in there and dominate, climb the corporate ladder, yada, 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 after I got in there. But God had something bigger and better in store for me. And that's so interesting because I never forget when we used to get evicted, my mom used to always tell us, God got something bigger and better in store for us. And we would get these new houses. We wouldn't stay there long, David, but every time they were always bigger and better. Oh my goodness. That's how I got
Wow.
that's how I got there, man. So pretty exciting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, man. So how do we get from there? You're now getting launched into your purpose. Mary is the catalyst. Okay. You've
That's
had
right.
this dream, this vision to build this hot dog stand and be in the restaurant business and own your own thing. And how do we move and transition now to get into the franchising world and all that? How does that happen?
Perfect. That's a great question. Great question. So after Mary, I had one of my fraternity brothers, Sean Moore. I'll call him out. That's why it's important to have people around you that is going to hold you accountable. And see, most people, they have fans around them, but I have true friends, and I only have a couple. And what thing about fans is fans sit back and that a boy, they applaud you, they let you off the hook, but friends don't. True friends don't. He allowed me he gave my space for a few weeks. And back then we had an answer machine. So I would let it just go to the answer machine. Literally, I wasn't washing up. I wasn't bathing. I was like dark in the house, spread eagle praying to the Lord. Why? My God, why have you forsaken me? Real talk. I'm serious, seriously. And then I would get up sometime and listen to the voicemails. My mother would call, my girlfriend would call, my boy, and I would. So my boy calls said, Ken, I'm coming over to get you Friday. Get suited and booted like we taught you. We're going to an interview, and I'm obedient. I went there begrudgingly and we went to a minority job fair, and we went there, and it was refreshing. So we saw all these companies, and I saw Wendy's. Now I didn't have respect for fast food. I wanted to own King's hot dog stands. So I went there just for shits and grins. I could say that, right? And I gave my resume, and they took my resume, and then the next step was if your resume was robust and it had the right components, they took you to phase 2. So they took me behind a curtain, and then they interviewed me. Then they took me into an office, and they said, "Hey, we want to make you an offer right there on the spot." And now remember, Mary had I got matriculated, got recruited 6 months. I was making 18,500. They paid me 25,000. I got fired and got a raise. Come on, somebody.
What?
It's 6 Can't make this up.
Amazing.
See, many are the plans of the man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that will prevail. Woo! Come on, somebody. And so that fueled me. That gave me hope. So then I made a decision. I said that's when I became an entrepreneur. I'm gonna say that again for you. That's when I became an entrepreneur. And it was funny because I was already a new entrepreneur in my mind, but then that really cemented it because I said I'll never work another job a day in my life. Because a job, you work dollar, you exchange dollar for hours. I said I'll do is I'll do paid internships. I coined this phrase called paid internships. I said, well, everybody, my father always taught me growing up that the masses are the asses. Let everybody else go to work, change dollars for hours, 40 hours, 40 years 401k, but not me. I still went to the same space as them, but mentally, I went there to learn, earn, so I can move on. Woo! Come on, somebody. I went there just to leverage and take full advantage of the opportunity. Growing up, I was taught in my environment that you never ever take a person, place, a thing. No, take full advantage of every person, place, a thing that you come in contact with. Now that's diabolically opposed to what the world teaches us. My parents taught us this. I'm gonna say it. They said, not don't, can. They said, your job, your assignment is to take full advantage of every person and every opportunity you get, but never, ever, ever, ever take a person or opportunity for granted. Oh, that was rich. That was a nugget right there. So that was the approach that I had with these quote unquote jobs. They wasn't jobs, they were paid internships. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna earn because I'm giving time. But while I'm earning, I'm gonna learn. Woo, come on, somebody. That's called leverage.
There we go.
Yeah, guess what I'm gonna do at the end, Dave? And then I'm gonna move on to something bigger and better. So I strategically started putting together my exit strategy. Real talk. I had like a 5-year exit strategy. I said, I'm gonna go. I work with the Marriott Court. I work with Wendy's. I stayed there for 6 months at first. Stay there. I learned, I earned, and then I moved on. And it was so interesting, Dave. Then I went to the Marriott. I learned, I earned, and move on. But when I took these opportunities, jobs, paid internships, I didn't take them for money. I took them for, okay, what did I need to become an entrepreneur? What skill set, what mindset was I deficient in? And how can we call it partner for results. So these big companies got all these resources. So I said, I don't have the resources, but I got a skill set. Woo, come on, somebody. So if I take my skill set, plant my skill set around these resources, it's fair exchange, no robbery. Because when you work in a job or paid internship, that's why I always believe that you should always deliver more value than you get paid for.
That's right.
That's where I got that from, because I would take these paid internships and I would hear everybody else complaining and murmuring about they didn't make enough money or this, but I was there. My energy was high because guess what? I was on purpose. I knew that it was temporary. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a goal in mind, kids hot dog stands. And so I did that, man. And so I took the job at Wendy's. I learned about customer service. I learned about leadership from the best. See these major companies, man. I love franchise space because one thing about franchises, they're big on systems and processes. And I'm a big systems process guy because I ain't that smart. But you give me a system and a process, I'm killing it. I'm crushing it. And I love systems. System means save yourself time, energy, and money. Woo! Come on, somebody.
Here we go.
That's Dave, good. I would go into these companies, and unlike everybody else, I wouldn't focus on the politics. I wouldn't focus on the people. I would study the system. I would take it home. I would go in on the weekends. I would learn it. And then I became a master of it. And then I became more proficient. And so then after I got what I needed, right, I would go to HR, I go to my boss and say, you know what, I got to move. I got to go. Where you going, Ken? And they always try to give me more money, but it wasn't about the money at all. I wanted to go on. I was clear about what I wanted to do. So that was that's my chapter my life called paid internship. So I did that with Wendy's, with Aramark, I'm not with Wendy's, with that with a couple of entrepreneur companies, small companies, and then one day, my wife and I, we we hadn't had our first child yet, but we had purchased a condo, a townhouse, and we wanted to build our first house. And so we made a pact, said, okay, why don't we, in order to get the down payment, why don't we use our time? This is how we thought, even young, man. Okay, she was a school teacher, so why don't you teach summer school? Because summer school you make more money. And I said, what I'll do is I'll go get a part-time job somewhere in the industry. And so I never forget, I went one day, I got off my job and I went to a restaurant cold calling. At that point in time, I was a food broker. I went to that because I wanted to become a subject matter expert. So I started taking paid internships from, we call it from farm to table. Come on, somebody, farm to table. Yes. So when it comes to the food service space, what I wanted to do, I wanted to personally become a subject matter expert from farm to table. So after I became a subject matter expert operationally, I used to know that when I was in the restaurant business, as a manager, the people would come and take my order. And I used to like that job because they would come in, have a suit on and a briefcase and a computer, and then they would leave out, give me ideas. I said, I want to do that. So I talked to the rep and said, I want to do what you're doing. And it's so funny, man. Looking back at it, he played it down, David. Oh, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. No, I want to do this. Can I tell you, honestly, Dave, he would not give me the information to find out how to get the job. Guess what I did? Wow. I would get off work and I drive around, walk around downtown Chicago, and I would see the big old truck called Cisco. Cisco is a food service company. And so I never forget, I see the guy bringing down the food. How you doing? So my name is Ken Brown. And I said, how long you work for Cisco? I'm interviewing them. How long you work there? Is it a good company? Who do I call? Oh, here you go, call. And I called the company, cold call. My name is Ken Brown. I said, and I want to be a sales rep for your company. And I got an interview, bro. Got an interview from her. True story. Wow. That's how I got from operations. Then I went to sales. Then I got a job in food service sales. Wow. And after becoming proficient in sales, I got recruited by a food broker. And that Tyson, Sara Lee, Quaker, Nabisco, we represented all these companies. J.R. Simplot. So as a broker, I got the opportunity to go to all of these manufacturers. I got to see where the French fries come from the ground, where the chicken, the whole plant tours. And so I kind of navigated my way through that. And one day I'm going to cold call on a restaurant and I had some samples in my bag. And I was going home and I wanted to stop. And I stopped at this restaurant and I had samples. I never forget, the guy name was Ted. And I gave him the samples and he told me something that was so powerful. He said, Ken Brown, he said, I don't need samples. I don't need food. I need people. I'm opening up my new business, my new restaurant in 2 weeks. I don't have enough people. So I left the samples and went home. When I went home, and this is the power of association and having the right people around you to speak life into you. The Bible calls it iron sharp as iron.
That's right.
My wife said to me, she started to use my own stuff for me. I went home. How was your day, babe? I said, it was fine. I said, I went to that beautiful restaurant and I'm telling her about the aesthetics. And I said, oh yeah. And the guy there, I said, I tried to tell him some food, but he told me he don't need food. He need people. She said, hold up. Wait a minute. She said, hey, cowboy. She used to call me cowboy because I'm happy. She said, aren't you going to open your own business one day? What about Ken's hot dog stands? And she said, you can't be what you can't see. She said, you should go help that guy out. That's pretty, that one conversation right there, really, like Mary, that encounter, that conversation, it was a game changer.
Wow.
I went over there. The Bible tells us to be great, you must truly first serve others, right?
That's right.
Now I went over there with my ego. How you doing, Ted? You need people. I can help you out. Okay, I can manage the place for you. Hold up, Ken. I don't need a manager. I need servers. Servers? Who you talking to? You got me messed. I think it is. I got a degree. Who you think you talking? I'm on hot dog stands. Now this is my mindset. This man owned the business. I'm on. So, and he said, I need servers. So I humbled myself, and he gave me an opportunity to serve tables at his restaurant. As a matter of fact, true story, the restaurant was a grand opening, and I never forget. I had never served tables in my life before, David. Never, ever, ever, ever. And it was a white tablecloth Italian restaurant in the suburbs, and it was brand new. And I never forget the day we opened up. We had a service huddle, and they asked, "Okay, so who's going to wait on the first customer?" And we had a little drawing, and I picked the straw, and the first customer who came in that door, I had the opportunity to serve them, and I had to get them a big old bottle of champagne. That was so powerful. I'll never forget that, man. Yeah. So I became a server. Right. And I fell in love with it, Dave, because I leveraged it again. So I didn't have the money to open Ken's hot dog stands, but here I am having an opportunity. See, you can't be what you can't see. I had the opportunity not to learn it from college, but firsthand from conception, how to open and build and scale a restaurant. God had gave me that powerful opportunity, and I took full advantage of it. So I would go there 2 or 3 days a week to serve tables, but guess what? I had access to Ted, the owner. So when things calmed down, I would always case Ted out. You know what case mean? It's when you find somebody who 2-3 steps ahead of you and you copy and steal everything from them. Woo! Come on, somebody. You watching them. I'm watching Ted, how he dressed, how he walked, how he engaged the customers. Right. And it's so funny now how I engage and how I dress in the business came from Ted. Wow. I can't make this up, Dave. Role model. And so I would ask him, Ted, why did you pick these floors? Why did you pick that? And I'd go home, I would make notes. Fast forward, I thought I was going to do that just to get the money to build a house. We wound up building our house, but I kept the job because it was so fun and it was cash business. I was making money every day because I was making $200 a day, $300 a day serving tables, cash money.
Wow.
I was proficient.
That's really great.
Because service is my gift. So I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, powerful. And so, lo and behold, one day, I noticed this couple who used to always come there every week on a date. And it was African American, and it's one of the few African Americans used to come to that restaurant because it was a white tablecloth restaurant. And back then, and it was in an affluent neighborhood. And so I never forget, the husband used to come and they used to wait on me. They used to request me. Wow. And I don't care if it was a 45-minute wait, they would say, we want Ken. And I didn't understand why, but thinking back at it, he would ask me these questions. Ken, something different about you. And I would tell him, I'm not really a server. I said, I'm going to open up Ken's hot dog stands and I'm here so I can learn, earn, and move on. So every week that he came to eat, he would ask me questions. Ken, how's Ken's hot dogs going? He would call Ken's hot dog stand the name. How's it going? Where you going to put it at? I had no idea, Dave. True story. Wow. And his wife used to sit there and she never said a word to me at all. Never, ever, ever. And fast forward, I saw a newspaper, the Chicago Tribune, and this hack I used to do as an entrepreneur. I would go and look in the Chicago Tribune, the Help Wanted ad back then. Before we had Indeed, we had the Help Wanted ad. So if you had a job, I would look in there. If I saw a restaurant, I would call the restaurant and I would tell them to hire me as a consultant. Yeah. And so when I looked at one day I looked at the Chicago Tribune and I saw an article from McDonald's. It said, come meet McDonald's. It said, come meet McDonald's upper management. I tore the article out and I called my partner up and said, hey, let's go to McDonald's and tell them to hire us as outside consultants. Now, I got to say this. We didn't have an EIN number. We didn't have an LLC. We didn't even have a business plan, but we had a made up mind. And I went to McDonald's, got suited and booted, went to McDonald's with a briefcase, Dave. The only thing I put in the briefcase was that article.
I love it.
Dave, I didn't have nothing in that article. See, what I found in life, Dave, sometimes you got to faith it until you make it. I fake it. Too many people faking it. By faith, I knew that I had dedicated the time. I had the education. I had the desire. I had developed the skill set. All I needed was the platform. Come on, somebody. An opportunity. And so when I went to McDonald's, I went there suited and booted and intentional to tell them to hire my company that I really didn't have. Woo! Come on, somebody.
I love it.
Dude, Dave, I don't think you're getting this, Dave. I didn't go to your local drive-through. Right. I had the audacity of hope like Obama. I went to Ray Kroc Drive in
Mm.
Oakland, Illinois, to tell them to hire my company and to help them improve the quality, service, and cleanliness. That was my intentions. And when I got there, I never forget, I got there, they welcomed me, and then they said, right upstairs, sir. And I go up the escalator, and I started to see balloons. And that triggered something. I said, balloons? This is a business meeting. Like Jay-Z, I'm a businessman. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah.
I get there, and I saw balloons, and then some told me to stop and look at I opened my briefcase up, and the only thing I had in there, of course, was the article. And it said, come meet McDonald's upper management at a job fair. Dave, I didn't see job fair on there. And I know, because I know now, looking back at it, if I would have saw job fair, I would not have went. That's how I know it was all God.
Wow.
See, let me digress a little bit. Growing up, we were evicted 10 times. We used to I noticed something. Every time we got evicted, it was we would lose our grade, we would lose clothes, we have to start all over again. But it was one thing we always kept, and I don't know how. It was a picture, and it was called God's Footprints. And it talked about how the person was, the whole passage talks about, hey, God, you know what? I get into trouble, I get in despair, and then you leave me, forsake me. And then the God portion said, you know what? Look behind you. Look behind you. It's only one set of footprints. He said, I was always there with you. I was carrying you. Woo! Come on, somebody. That was my life, bruh. Is that God was right there, man, because you can't make this up. That makes sense. And so, that's how I got there. So I'm there at the job fair, and opened the briefcase up and saw that. And so I pressed through it. So my mind, I said, you know what? I'm going to go in here. I'm going to fake the 50, won't go to him so I can go, because I don't need no job. I want an opportunity. And as we went through, I started to see all these tables. They had the marketing department. They had the real estate department. They had their construction department. And I started looking at that, and I said, McDonald's is a global company. I didn't know that before then. And then we got through the little display, and they asked us to go into an auditorium, and we got there and sat down there. I'm ready to go. I got what I needed. Assignment over. I knew my assignment. And it was 3 people on the stage, 2 Caucasian men, an African-American lady. And the lady stood up. And you ever saw somebody and you kind of know them, but you don't know them? That happened to me. Remember the Bible tells us, it says, be careful, because you might be entertaining angels unaware.
Right.
So I get there, and I saw the lady, and I didn't know her. So fast forward, they got done, and they wanted to have a receiving line. And so I got nervous, because I said, wait a minute, I want to go, and I got to contact them. And they had security there and everything, because they had the CEO of McDonald's there. And long story short, the lady saw I had to go by and shake her hand. And when I grabbed her hand and shook her hand, she grabbed my hand, then she grabbed the other one, she cuffed it. She said, I know you. I said, no, you don't. And I tried to leave. And she called over the CEO of McDonald's, Jack Greenberg, and all of his whole entourage. And she told him, she said, this guy right here, she said, I've been watching him. Me and my husband going to this restaurant for the last few years, and we've seen this guy. He's took care of us. She said, his passion is absolutely off the charts. She said, his vision, he know what he wants to do. And the last thing she said, we want everyone in McDonald's I want everyone in McDonald's to feel the way that I did. She did a commercial for me in front of the CEO of McDonald's. And I'm sitting there and I never forget this day, my big mouth being me, old Ken Brown fashion. I said, oh, thank you for the introduction. I said, but I didn't come here for a job. I said, I came here because I said, I have a company called Food Service Solutions. And I went through my whole elevator pitch. And they laughed. The CEO laughed and said, you got a live one here, Edie. And she pulled me to the side, Dave, and gave me her card and said, Ken, you don't know me and I don't know you. She said, but I need you to trust me. She said, you could be where I'm at in 5 years. I said this. Guess what I said instinctively? Well, thank you again, man. But guess what? I don't want to be with you in 5 years. Because I want to own my own. I can call her right now. I can't make this up. And but that was powerful for her, because she said I was passionate. I knew what I wanted. And she set up a meeting at our office the next week. Said, I want you to come to my office. Then I went to her meeting, sat in there, and she said, this is not an interview. She said, I'm the vice president here. She said, and I want you, she said, I see something in you. And she said, so I want you to trust me. And dude, I had never worked behind the counter of a fast food in my life before. She gave me an opportunity to be the supervisor, a consultant over 5 restaurants. I had 300 employees. I think each store was doing like almost like $1.5 million a year. And so instantly, I went from being a server to a consultant with McDonald's, dude. No background check, no nothing. And so it's so powerful. Remember, when I talk about you have, in order to get promoted, you got to be overqualified in your current position. Now, she had never talked to me, touched me. She saw me in action. I said I wanted to own my business, but what she saw was I was minding my business. Come on, somebody. Did that make sense to you?
Yep.
More people say they want to own their business, but she got a chance to see me taking care of this man's business. Because what I believe now is that Ted wasn't really the owner. I was the owner. Ted was just paying the bills. Woo, come on, somebody. Because that's the difference in ownership and owning. He owned the debt. He owned the asset. But I was taking ownership, and she saw it. And she told me, I need someone like you on my team. And put me in the game. She put me in the game, man. And I didn't know what I was doing, David. I didn't know what I was doing, but I would go to the office on Saturday morning while everybody was playing holidays, and I would study. I would study the system, study the numbers, study it. And next thing you know, man, my stores, each store, they had a big meeting. Each store I had, all 5 stores, increased the quality, service, cleanliness, and profits. Matter of fact, won awards, and then each store improved profits by $150,000 each. Now, I told you I got a job from Airmark, right, making $18,000. Then Wendy's paid me $25,000. Dude, she paid me $80,000, David.
Sheesh.
$80,000. No background check, no reference check. Powerful story, isn't it? So that's how I got there.
Whoa.
So I became a consultant first, and I did that. I was consulting for her for those stores, and then in my mind, I was always gonna leave and go do kids hot dog stands. She wound up getting promoted from Chicago to Michigan. And I get a call from her secretary, want to say, Ken, Edie wants to talk to you. And I want to talk to her too, because I was just working on my exit strategy. And I was going to let her know, thank for the opportunity, but I'm going to do Ken's hot dog stands. I never forget, I was in my basement on the phone and had her on speaker. And she said, Ken, I want to thank you. First of all, I'm very proud of you. She said, I took a risk with you, and you nailed it. She said, you nailed it. She said, you improved the quality, service, cleanliness, and profitability in all the stores. And she said, I want you to come down to Michigan. And I'm listening, but I'm not listening, because I'm already checked out. I'm like, I know what I got to do. I'm working my plans that the God's plan. Come on, somebody. I'm working my plans to the God's plan. And she said, Ken, I want you to come here, because now I'm the vice president over the entire Michigan region. And I'm putting together my high performing team, and I want you. And I said, well, Edie, no disrespect, but I don't move for jobs.
Woo.
And she said, what did you say? I said, I don't move for jobs. She said, Ken, did I say job? She said, I watched you, how you took ownership of those 5 restaurants. And she said, most people say they want to become an owner. She said, but you took ownership. She said, I'm talking about you. She said, when I first met you, you said you wanted to open your own business. I'm giving you the opportunity now. What? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. That's when I started loving it. Oh, come on, somebody. So, true story. So I had to drive up to Michigan from Chicago to Michigan. Drove up. I can't make this up, Dave. I had no CPA, no lawyer, no family, no friends. I drove up just blindly by faith. And my book called Leap of Faith because of this. Drove up 94 by faith and went to their corporate offices, their regional offices. And I got there. It was the most beautiful office I ever seen, with this beautiful oak table and the black chairs. And I walk in there, and there's 12 people. This is the vice president, the president, the marketing chief. And me by myself. And Dave, they slid this packet to me about that thick. It was a franchise agreement. And all of them, I said, Ken Brown, we heard about you. I'm like, Dave, we didn't have Instagram, Facebook back then, bruh. Wow. Woo, come on, somebody. My father taught me something growing up. He said, Ken, He said, your actions should speak so loud that people can't hear a word that you say. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna let that marinate. That's gangster.
Yeah, that is.
People talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
You got a PhD, what you PhD doing? And
Mm.
so she saw my fruit. She saw, the Bible says too, you know a tree by its fruit. She saw the fruits of it. I'm sitting there with this McDonald's brass and me, born to teenage parents, evicted 10 times. I'm sitting there with a franchise agreement. And I'm looking through it, Dave, faking the 50. Didn't know I was looking at all these words out, thou, art, art. And they said, so Mr. Brown, how does it look? I said, well, I got to let my lawyer look at it. I didn't have no lawyer, Dave. It just sounded good.
Yeah, I love it. I
and
love it.
and so I signed it right then. I signed it right then, and that's that day I became that. See, if you look at the history of McDonald's owners, it's a long process. You got to go through so many loops. You got to do. Favor ain't fair. True story. Can't make this up.
Amazing.
True
Ken,
story.
oh
Yeah.
my God,
Yeah.
so much. This is so rich. Listeners, as you're hearing this, I'm sure there's just so much you can pick up from Ken, the power of persistence, having
Mm.
a vision,
Power.
serving people, taking ownership as if it's your own. He
Power.
treated like all the dots connected, and literally, if one dot didn't connect, it wouldn't happen. Right? If you
Period.
hadn't gone to the Cisco guy and asked him for,
Got it,
who
Dave.
is the person,
Thank you,
and then
Dave.
he tells the person, like there's so much, and
Power.
it goes back. So you take this back. I'm like, your life is a book, and we'll tell others, we'll tell people to get your book too. But your life is a book because you you go back to the story of what your dad and your mom taught you.
Yeah.
Your mom taught you faith. Your
Wow.
dad taught you intentionality. You
Wow.
use those principles of faith and intentionality to literally steer the course and direction of your life. Had you not been born in the way the circumstances you were born into, the faith and intentionality spirit may not have been as strong in you as it is. And
Wouldn't have.
and that's what made you who you are today. And
Power.
it's these successes are a tribute to those principles that you learned from childhood. And
Power.
man, this is so phenomenal. I've heard your story in other capacities, but this is on another level. It hits, and I know we're not even done. So Ken, we rarely do this, but we have to have a part two. Like
Wow.
there's so much that we have to dig in. But what I want us to do for the rest of this interview is, and then we're gonna pick back up in the second part. But what I want us to do is take us back to the gift of service. Like you said,
Mhm.
what's you said your most dominant gift is service. Take us back to how you identified that, when you identified that, and that whole journey.
That's a great question. Most things not taught, they're caught. Environment. I watched my mother growing up. My mother and father, once in all fairness, my mother and father wound up getting divorced because 13 and 14, life had just happened to them. And they took the best, they took lemons and made lemonade. But they actually grew apart. And then after my mother and father grew apart, I noticed that our lifestyle shifted drastically because my mother was a homemaker. My father was a breadwinner. He worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to provide for us. They built houses. My father was a great provider. And so once my mother and father got divorced, my father had to go on with his life. And so he had to still pay, not child support. He still had to provide for us. But it was 5 of us. They have us in private school. But I watched how him and my mom served other people in the
Mm,
community. My father was in politics. So
mm,
and mother really got divorced because I never forget my father came home one day and said, I'm, not tired of working. He said, I want to talk I can't make this up, Dave. I heard the comment my father said, I want to do something that's going to impact just not my children, but my children's children's children. I heard that out of his
mm,
mouth. He
mm,
said, I feel like I want to do something bigger. She said,
mm,
what? You providing for us, the normal woman thing. Oh, you
mm,
providing for us? He said, no, I want to do something that's going to impact our children's children's children. And guess
mm,
what he wanted? He went from he was a chef. He was an
mm.
executive chef for the University of Chicago. He
Wow.
walked away from that and he went into public service. He ran for alderman. He supported the people who ran for president back in the day. He went around the country campaigning for them. So and then I'm going with him on the road campaigning and service. So I got to see service. And then my grandmother, they actually had a spirit of service, and I caught it. So I wasn't we didn't grow up seeing selfishness and look out for yourself. If you had, we grew up in this culture whereas you give someone your last because God is gonna supply. That kind of radical crazy faith. And that's where it was birthed at. So we wasn't grew up in an environment of fear and lack. It was, hey, if you give, God gonna give it back to you, pressed down, shaking together, running over. Come on, somebody. And that's so right. I took that, and then once I got into the food service industry, it was game over because every day I woke up, every day I woke up and I went to work, it wasn't about me, but it was up to me to provide service to people. And there was something about the feeling you get when someone says, thank you, the smile. And then, in the food service industry, food is that equalizer. That's right. When that food come out, or people get that food, or a kid get that French fry, oh, it's game over, the smile. So it just got contagious, man. So it was so funny because my friends wanted to be doctors and lawyers, and they used to laugh at me for what I did. But look how it worked out. I ain't gonna lie, because it ain't no glamorous job. And I love what the Bible says. To be truly great, you must first serve others. And it's so funny. My email has been the same since the internet. And I'll get servant leader 1 is mine. Because now you talk about intentionality, Dave. Right. That shows you I'm serious about it. That my email is servant leader 1 because I want to be great, not because of me, but I know that I make other people better when I give of myself. It's something that's enriching and fortifying about that. And to be able to get paid for doing that. Yeah. Ooh, my goodness. Game over, kiss the baby. Look, babe, I feel sorry for other people, man, because my profession, I come home every day and I feel fortified and rejuvenated because I've given to other people. And that's powerful. So I take it very seriously, man. And then I love it because you can go anywhere on the globe, Dave, and people need 3 things to survive: food, water, and shelter. So that's right. And with food comes service. So our recession proofs my life, man. And so I thank God for it, man, because I know that is what I'm here to do, is to serve his people. Woo! Come on, somebody.
There we go. Ken. My goodness. You just blessed. I mean, so impactful. Your journey really gives hope and inspires people. There's really no excuse for anyone, right? It doesn't matter. And really, we all have, as you talked about, the ability to use our mind to get where we want to go. Like, you allowed your mindset to literally steer the course of your life. You didn't allow anything to stop you. So, like I said, this is going to be we're not going to end our episode because we got another episode we have to do. But I'd like for you to share of just your books and resources and any place you want to direct people to where they can learn more. They're hearing this interview, they're like, man, I gotta learn more about Ken. I want to work with Ken. I want to find out some of the offerings he has. What would you like to share in that aspect?
Yeah, and before I do that, I want to say, Dave, and I thank you because you've helped me, because it's all has been intentional. Every step that I've done, but but looking back at it, because life is lived looking forward, but learn looking backwards. It was my obedience. That's the powerful thing about it, is that my obedience, man, and me being a servant, I wasn't caught up with my ego. And look what happened. Every step, it might not have been perfect, but I had faith and I didn't give up hope. And guess what? And I always say, on the other side of pain is a promise. But most people don't want to go through that pain. Everybody want to win. Everybody want that promise. And so I love adversity. I'm an adversity expert, man. I'm going to say that. I love it. And it might sound crazy, but I love it because guess what? By being an adversity expert, it takes the power off of me and I could put that demand on God's word and my faith. That makes sense?
That makes
perfect sense. So, and last thing that you talked about, you said everything I did, my mind. That's
Yeah.
why my handle is mind your business with Ken.
Mind your business. Yes.
Everybody who listening and looking at this, that is the key to success. Don't look at everybody else. You mind your business. I love in Luke when Jesus was going to the temple. You got the synagogue and you got a temple. See, one you go to pray, one you go to study and learn. When he was there, his parents were looking for him. And what did they say? They said, "Why are you looking for me? I'm about my father's business." Oh, come on, somebody.
That's
Boy,
right.
that is so rich, Dave. And so when I got that, Dave, it's intentional. So my on social media, it's mind your business with Ken.
That's right.
And so my workshop seminars, mind your business. I do leadership training, mind your business. But you can find out everything you want about me at KenBrownInternational.com. I got training. I do leadership training. We do customer service training. I have, but my lion's share of my business now in this season is working with people who are getting into, going through, or want to exit franchises. I am the franchise king. I can navigate. When you did business with McDonald's, there's no franchise that I cannot show you how to get into, get through, and exit. I have three award-winning books and resources on our website. A Leap of Faith, which is the story I just told, but it goes in really detail. One of my favorite. I love that book, but my favorite is Life. Life means live in freedom every day. Woo! Come on, somebody. That's the goal for my life, Dave, is that I want to, at the end of my life, my dash, I want people to say that he showed me in word and deed how to be free. Not salvation, freedom. That's God, that's Jesus did that. I mean, in this world, mindset, your money. See, if you get your mind and your money free, woo, it's game over, kiss the baby. So go to KenBrownInternational.com. That's how you can get to me any day, anyway. But I thank you for this opportunity, Dave. We're gonna do part 2, but I didn't say at the end, dude. Guess what? When she made me the offer, she also connected me with a bank, a commercial lender, which is was called Free Bank of Boston, which is now Bank of America, and they sent me a letter.
Oh man, save that! Don't tell them. Let's give them a cliffhanger today. That they're gonna get that. We're gonna pick right back up right there.
To be continued on there, like on TV.
To be continued. The Boston Bank. So y'all gonna get that next piece. So stay tuned for that part 2.